Hey there, just before I kick into today's episode of content, I wanted to share with you something that you're going to want to hear about. So if you're thinking about creating an online course or you already have one that isn't quite selling, then I want to invite you to my brand new free masterclass, How to Launch a Money-Making Course or Program in 2025. Because let's be honest, a lot of courses never make real money. And I don't want that to be the situation for you. So in this free training, I'll show you exactly why that happens and the steps you need to take to build a course that actually sells. You'll learn things like why your audience size isn't the thing holding you back, how to create buyers from the audience that you already have, and my proven path to purchase plan, the system my 6- and 7-figure clients use to launch profitably and consistently. So if you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and finally launch your course the right way, head over to loublakely.com/masterclass and save your seat now. It's free, it's value packed, and it's going to change how you launch forever. I also have a couple of sessions, so no matter what time zone you're in, there is going to be a time or a session that suits you. So head over to loublakely.com/masterclass and grab your spot now. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Online Course Creator Show. This is episode 96, and today I am talking about hustle. And I feel like hustle is quite a controversial word. It's a word that some of us love, and it's a word that some of us hate. And I have quite a lot of things to say about hustle. And the funny thing is, I actually went to record an Instagram story to share my thoughts on hustle. And I tried it. I did try and share my thoughts, and then I realized, you know what, this is far too long to be an Instagram story. It actually needs to be a podcast. You know how sometimes you voice note your friends and then you're like, this is basically a podcast? That's how I feel about this episode. So I tried to do the short version. There is no short version. So here I am on the pod talking about this today. And I think that if you struggle with the word hustle, if you feel like you do have to hustle really, really hard and give up everything else in your life in order to have success, or, you're just wondering, how can I do business better, then I think this episode is definitely going to help you. I feel like I am actually pretty qualified to talk about this, to be honest, because if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you know that I did experience quite a bad burnout, and hustle definitely played into that. But I have refound ways through healing through that process and actually coming out the other side and building a really aligned business now, and also being in a period of growth right now. I feel like I have really mastered what hustle looks like to me and how I can achieve what I want and grow my business in a way that actually feels really good to me. Okay. So, and I don't actually identify with the word hustle, like I'm not one of those people who's like, you've just got to hustle more. Like I will never say that to my clients or my students. Never, ever, ever am I going to tell you, you just need to hustle. Like I think that's a cop out, and it is actually not the answer to your problems, because it's just this idea that you do more, you're going to get more results. That's absolutely not true. It's like that whole, the harder you work, the better you do. Like that's not true either. There's so many people that work really, really, really hard and don't really get ahead in business and in like a 9-to-5 job, for example, or any like shift work or anything, like there's people that work really hard that don't get ahead. So it's just doing more is not the answer. And I feel like that's the connotation of the word hustle, like get out there and share your story on social media like 5 times a day. Sure, that sounds great, but the reality of actually doing that is completely different. So what I want to share with you today is the right way to hustle and the wrong way to hustle, or, like the hustle that is actually building freedom versus the hustle that really just burns you out and never gets you to where you want to go. So this is what we're chatting about. And I really hope that you find this topic interesting. I know that hustling is something that some of us really relate to and some of us don't. I actually don't really like the word hustle. I think it's got so many negative connotations with it, but we'll get into that. So when I first started in business, hustle was very glorified, right? Everyone was like identifying as a hustler, like, I'm a hustler, I'm going to make this happen, and blah, blah, blah. And like that was quite respected. And I mean, those were the days where like bro marketing was at its full force. But bro marketing, I think many of us have learned that, that doesn't work. And it just burns us out. So it really is like the hustle that doesn't really get you anywhere and feels gross and feels yuck to be the one doing that, but also it feels yuck and gross to be on the receiving end of that. And a lot of those bro marketing tactics do not work anymore. But this idea of hustle was very glorified. People had the word hustle in their name, in their business name, and a lot of those people have actually since changed, which is very interesting. And then like on the flip side of that, and I think this really came into effect during the pandemic, is that we moved into this real anti-hustle phase. This came out in full force. It's like, I'm not going to hustle. And it became all about being in alignment and in flow, like this idea of being in flow and not working so hard and really like enjoying life. And you could be fooled by thinking that that is very much my approach. And I think that's because I talk a lot about lifestyle and, what's the point of building a business if your life's a mess kind of thing. And I do fully agree with that. Of course, that is my thing. And also I have a business model. I mean, this whole podcast is about the business model of a more leveraged passive income stream of actually building scalable products and then having to do less work in your day to day. Now, I definitely don't want to portray this idea that this means that you don't actually have to work hard in order to be able to achieve that, because you absolutely do. So I feel like in a way, yes, we've gone from this hustle mindset to anti-hustle, like yuck, who wants to do that? But in a sense, I think the anti-hustle messaging is also incomplete and is actually harmful to your business if you want to grow and achieve big things, because there's nothing wrong with wanting to be successful and wanting to achieve big things. So, as I said, it gives the illusion that you don't have to do any work and it's all flowy and playful. And while this is a nice idea, there's no denying you have to be able to sit down and get the work done. Okay. Anyone who has ever achieved anything in business has the ability to create. So creating anything is quite a big process, right? And it requires the ability to concentrate, to actually come up with the idea to start with, to be able to turn that idea into a plan. And then it requires the ability to sit down and concentrate and actually get the steps done in order to be able to complete that project so that you can get it out there to the world. And, this is essential in this business model of online courses or group coaching programs or even low ticket offers. Any of these projects that are going to get you to the goal that you want in business, which is always to make more money, create more freedom in your life, is going to require you to sit down and do the work, even if you don't know what the results are going to be. Okay. So if you are like so anti-hustle that you're not going to like actually sit down and make yourself concentrate and do the deep work, then you're just never going to get the result. And that is the reality of it. Okay. So I think this anti-hustle mindset that it's all flowy and it's going to be easy and all this kind of stuff is very, very damaging as well. So working and doing deep work, I think, is a skill that is slowly getting lost over time. And I know that I am on a personal journey where I am looking at constantly rebuilding my ability to do deep work. I read the book Deep Work by Cal Newport a few years ago. I highly recommend it. And I really feel like over the years, it has become harder and harder to concentrate. And there's no doubt that the online world has impacted that. And like short form video, we've all gotten used to this really like short, sharp content. And we don't have this long-term ability to concentrate or the ability to concentrate for very long. And this is harming us. And now we've got AI, which is great, and we can use that. Like I use ChatGPT every single day, and it definitely helps speed up my work, but it doesn't actually help when it comes to like getting a big project out the door. Like sure, it can speed it up, but I still have to be the one driving that. I have to be able to concentrate. I have to be able to sit down and do the work. The ability to be able to follow through and get things done is essential. Okay, so there's no denying that. But there is a difference, I think, between hustle that actually traps you, and that's what I've experienced in the first iteration of my business, versus hustle that actually frees you. And so what does hustle look like when you're actually in alignment? And that's the key. Good and bad hustle. There is a version that is fully in your like highest vision, and then there's a version of it that is just like almost doing it for the sake of doing it. And actually, a lot of it does come down to your business model. A lot of it comes down to knowing what you want versus not knowing what you want. And I know that sounds very basic, but a lot of people do not know what they want. And, you know, I have had many clients in the past tell me they don't know what they want. And when you are running from that, it's very hard to actually streamline your life and work out exactly where you're going. And you do end up kind of like hustling for the sake of doing things, usually for other people's agendas and not your own. So I wanted to like talk about working hard without burning out, without abandoning yourself, without actually feeling like you are hustling. Now, I want you to think about what is the connotation that you personally hold with the word hustle. And, you know, that word is controversial. We've still got people who are pushing it's all hustle, hustle, hustle. And then we've got the flip side of that is all about flow and ease and the idea that you don't really need to do anything. And while I think that the anti-hustle movement is actually, it has a lot of good points, right? Especially being in alignment with where you're going. But it can also mislead you in thinking this is just going to be easy and I don't have to do the work. So I want you to reclaim hustle in a way that serves your dreams, your health, and your long-term vision, because this is exactly what I have been able to do. So hustle to me actually gives me this idea or vision of like being breathless, like out of breath. I don't know why it gives me that feeling, but it makes me like feel short in breath, like I'm breathing from like right up in my neck and I'm not grounded. I'm in like fight or flight. That's what the word hustle, like when I think of someone that's hustling, that's what I think, like this, like you've got to go, 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 go. And you're constantly in fight or flight basically. And you're constantly pushing, go, go, go. Like you're running on caffeine to get through the day. You're doing whatever you can to make yourself work harder. You're always on a tight schedule. There's no fun. It's all work. If you're out having fun, then you're doing something wrong. There's no playtime. There's just serious business. Like we're doing business. We're hustling. Like that's how it makes me feel. And also it's like you're pushing through and you're doing stuff that you don't want to do and you're following the rules of society to be successful. And actually, as I'm saying this, it all feels very masculine, right? Like this real like it's kind of like I can just hear this man's voice going, work harder. It's kind of like that, like David Goggins, for example, like, you know, those people that are like boot camp style, do this, do that, or it actually feels like going to a boot camp, like workout style, like that kind of army. Oh, it actually makes me feel quite reactive. You know what I mean? Like not calm and not grounded. And I think for me, recovering from burnout, I actually had to like really sit with this and be like, learn to calm my nervous system down and come from a really grounded place when it comes to everything, like when it comes to achieving your goals. And it's really interesting now because I feel like I've come full circle through this whole process. I've done so much healing to recover from burnout. I have been building a new business. Like I pivoted into teaching online courses in like 2021, just before I started this podcast. And I have slowly been building it. But now I would say from about October last year, I have completely moved into a stage of where I'm ready to grow, like where I'm ready, like I have freaking big goals again, which is amazing coming through that whole process where, like when you're in burnout, your goals kind of take a back seat. Like when you get to the point where you have to take time out to recover, which I hope none of you ever do, but I think it's also quite common, is that, you know, your goals take a back seat. Whereas now I'm like, you know what? I'm coming at this and I really want to achieve these things, but I am not making the same mistakes I did the first time. And I am not going to ever burn out again. And I know that wholeheartedly because I will never do that to myself again. And I know what led me there. So, and I want to share that with you and how I am now. I hate to use that word hustling again, but like how I am now moving towards massive goals and what's that requiring of me and how I am showing up in that. So yes, I guess in a way I did that hustle, like hard work every day, working yourself to the bone. And I experienced what happens when you do that. And then I went fully into the more feminine flow, ease, and all of that, and really lived that. And I needed to, okay, because that was my recovery, and really like sat in my feminine, I guess you could say, around doing business. And after experiencing both those two things, I definitely feel like it is a intersection of the masculine and the feminine that is the answer. And I definitely feel like there is a good way to hustle and a bad way to hustle. And I think the bad way to hustle is that full on in your masculine. And I think the good way to hustle is actually in the middle. The real thing that I think separates good hustle from bad hustle is when you are hustling to build someone else's dream. So it's reactive, swapping time for money, and it's about short-term survival. Versus hustling to build your own dream, where you are driven by your own vision, you are purpose-filled, and you are fulfilled. Because something that I learned from recovering from burnout is that what creates burnout is unfulfillment, not overdoing it. Yes, that can all contribute, but when you're working towards something and you don't even know where you're doing it, or you feel like you've got to the point where you're so disconnected from what you're doing that there's no end goal for you and you're just doing it to perform a task, which quite often happens when you are swapping time for money. So when people are paying you for your services, it's like, I've got to get this done. And you know you're getting paid for it, so you have to sit down and do the work, right? But then at the end of the day, you're exhausted. You're chasing your tail all the time. You are always trying to expand time. Like, how do I actually fit more into my day so I can get paid more? And this is why this model is just so exhausting, right? And it's so prone to burnout. And you have to hustle, really, because it's like, well, how can I fit more into my day? So then you end up ditching things like looking after your body. You ditch things like good nutrition. You ditch things like spending quality time with your family. You ditch things like rest. I think so many of us know what it's like to feel guilty to rest. That is a very common thing, right? But rest is absolutely essential. So why do we feel guilty for it, right? So a lot of these things actually come from societal programming. Like, we're taught that you must be productive, you must be achieving at every step during the day in order to achieve your goals. But I feel like when you're in this state, you're just like, you don't even get time to think, you don't get time to ground yourself, you don't get time to get clear on what you actually want. And then all of a sudden, you've maybe achieved your goals, but you're not fulfilled because it doesn't feel like you wanted it to. Or all of a sudden you're just in that hamster wheel of doing to complete tasks, to tick things off, to be productive in order to do what you said you were going to do to a client or whatever. And, you know, you kind of end the day and it's like, right, I've got to get to bed and you got to wake up and do it all again tomorrow. Like, you can see how that can wear off actually quite fast. And also it's going to be detrimental to your health because we need so much more than that to be well-rounded human beings. So, yeah, I think that is the real separation for me. And what I've realized about hustle is that there is hustling to build someone else's dreams, even if it may have been your dream in the start, okay? Or hustling to build your own dream. And the key here is to actually know what you want out of life and being willing to actually admit it, because I think that we all know what we want, but sometimes we're scared to admit it to ourselves because it might feel like lazy or unproductive to actually say, you know what, I do want a business model where I only work 10 hours a week and I want to spend the rest of my time traveling, or I want to spend the rest of my time doing whatever, like going to the spa or you know, doing Pilates or anything like that. So it's about actually getting true with yourself about what you want, because you do not have to buy into the whole hustle. You have to be at your desk 10, 12, 14 hours a day in order to achieve success, because that is absolutely not true. Instead, it's about being strategic and actually going after what you want. And that is where real fulfillment is created. And the thing about fulfillment is you absolutely can get fulfilled by working hard and sitting down and completing what you said you were going to do. And of course, achieving your goals. Fulfillment is key, but it's about, you get fulfillment from it being something that you truly care about versus something that you feel like you should do. So I think that's a really key distinction. Now, another thing that I wanted to speak about, and I think this is really pertinent to this business model that I love, is that there are going to be seasons where you are absolutely in building mode, and that may feel like you are sitting at your desk a lot more than normal. And I think in this business model, this needs to be addressed, right? Because there is a factor that with this particular business model is that you do a lot of the work in advance and then you get to reap the rewards of that later. And that's very different to selling your time for money, because usually when you sell your time for money, you will invoice either prior to doing the work, you may just collect a deposit and then get the client to pay at the end, or risky, you could also get them to pay at the end, which I do not recommend. So there's more of an instant gratification from that, but in the long term, it's a trap as well, because you just get stuck in more hours, more dollars, but you run out of hours. You literally can't stretch your time any further unless you want to start building an agency and start building a team and actually selling other people's time, which if that's for you, that's great, but it's not the business model that I personally want. On the flip side of that, you do have this business model of like signature programs, signature online courses, group coaching, or low ticket digital products that is going to give you a much more like easeful life and the ability to scale beyond your time, which is amazing. However, there is still a requirement that you're going to show up and do work in order to get the products out there, especially with like say we're talking about a low ticket digital product, you are going to have to create that before you sell it. So you have to be able to sit down and potentially pull out some big days in order to get that done. Same with the signature program. Like I definitely recommend that you pre-launch it, but the work that goes into a pre-launch is still there, right? Like you need to get clear on your offer, you need to build a sales page, and you need to do the marketing for it. And then once you've sold it successfully, then you go and create it, which is obviously, you know, time consuming. You've got to sit down and be able to map out your lessons, create the materials that you're going to use to teach, and then sit down and film them and edit the videos and upload them. So there's definitely work involved, but it's about actually shifting the way you're looking at that. Like, are you prepared to put in some work now, put in a lot of energy and a lot of effort for a payoff that's going to come on the other side of that? So in this business model, you're essentially doing the work up front. Now, I personally have the ability to sit down and be able to complete that work and it feel a lot less like hustle, even though it's still hard work and it's still taking my time, because I am so invested in the outcome of that, and it's what I truly want, and it's part of my long-term plan, and I know the wins are going to come, and it's fulfilling. I really feel like it is building my future by sitting down and doing this work. So that's where I think the key difference is. So I can be very grounded, even though I may have to do big days and I may have to do a lot of work to get it done, versus constantly chasing your tail, trying to answer clients, trying to get things done for them because that's what they're paying you for. Like, of course, that just feels completely different to my nervous system, right? Because I'm working so hard to build their dreams that way, right? Whereas in the other way, I'm building my own dreams while also being able to impact way more people because it's not dependent on my time and energy, and really help a lot more people in the process. So to me, that is so much more fulfilling. So all of this to say in a very roundabout way, because this was a little bit of a rant about hustle, and I hope you got something out of this. But what I think it really, really, really comes down to when it comes to hustling is one way gets you all jacked up in your nervous system because you're not building your own dreams, you're building someone else's, and it's not fulfilling for you for whatever reason anymore, versus actually building something that is going to help you create the freedom in the future, even if it means sitting down and doing more work right now. So I think that's a very, very key distinction in how I now look at hustle going into this growth period in my business, this period where I am doing more than I have for quite a long time. But I'm really happy in this space. Like, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm so ready for the growth that's going to come as a byproduct of this. And I think thinking that we never have to go through these periods because the business model is all flowy and ease-filled is just not true. The difference is that it's fulfilling, we're building what we want, and we're like fully in alignment. Okay, so that's where I have got to on hustle. And I think when I think of hustle, I actually want to change that narrative. Like I said earlier, that it makes me feel like, that breathless feeling. Well, actually now hustle can just feel like ease and groundedness. And ease doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the work that actually really, really matters to me. So let's both work towards hustle not being a bad word, but it actually being what we want it to be in a really aligned and fulfilling way. And I think a lot of this comes down to being very, very, very clear on what you want. Like, what do you truly want? What do you want your life to look like? And doing the work to make that happen for yourself. So those are my thoughts on hustle today, the good hustle versus the bad hustle, and how I'm looking at it now. And hopefully you've got something out of this that you can take away and action in your own work. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, course creators and go-getters. You're incredible, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit subscribe in your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. If you'd like to find out more about what I offer, head across to loublakely.com. See you next time.